Absolutely insane, shocking news hit the college football world last night when Alabama's Nick Saban announced he would be retiring. The news broke while I was eating dinner with my kids, and I got yelled at 2 or 3 times to put my phone down and pay attention to dinner. But it was one of those moments, probably the biggest news in college football over the last decade or so. Just nuts to think about Nick Saban hanging it up at Alabama. The undisputed GOAT. I understand we're all bigger Bobby fans than anyone in the world, and Bobby will forever be my GOAT. But the most accomplished, the most championships, just the most ridiculous legacy Nick Saban leaves behind at Alabama. And so immediately names start popping up as to who might replace him. Of course, the Vegas odds come out, and Mike Norvell's name is on that list. Now, what does that mean for Florida State? The odds courtesy of bookies.com. Norvell's name listed as the third most likely behind Dan Lanning and Dabo Swinney. Should Florida State fans be concerned here? Should FSU fans worry about Mike Norvell potentially being poached by an SEC program? It wasn't that long ago that another head coach was poached by an SEC program from Florida State. Obviously, that went down much differently, and both programs were in much different spots when that happened. I think that when that happened with Jimbo, the mood around his employment in Tallahassee was very meh. If you go, you go. If you don't, you don't. With Norvell, obviously things are different right now. You've got a coach who just won 19 games in a row. You've got a coach who in back-to-back years won 10 and then 13 games. Norvell leaving at this moment would obviously be a shock to the system. Now, I do want to say this. I have all of the respect in the world for Mike Norvell. I have all of the respect in the world for what he's built and what he is building. But I will say this, and then I'll give you my thoughts and what I'm hearing on Norvell in Tallahassee. But if Mike Norvell was to leave Tallahassee, Florida State will still be Florida State. Just like when Jimbo left, we went through a little bit of a rough patch, but just a few years later, Florida State was back to being Florida State. And I certainly do not want Norvell to move on. I have so much respect for him. I love what he's building, and I love the person that he is, as well as the coach that he is. But if for some reason Alabama is able to sway him away, and I don't think any of us could blame any coach that left for the job at Alabama, then Florida State will still be Florida State, and we will be just fine, just like we were after Jimbo, and just like we always will be. Now, what am I hearing? What do I think happens here? Immediately when this happened, I was hearing that Dan Lanning's name was being tossed around. When I showed you those Vegas odds, he is the odds-on favorite, according to bookies.com, to win this job. He is the one that most people think would end up replacing Nick Saban. Second, there is Dabo Swinney over at Clemson. He was a name that I was told as well. I think there are other names on the list, and then I do think Mike Norvell is on that short to medium-sized list as well. You think about the coaches in college football. There are only so many that you would truly want or have a shot at if you're Alabama. And I certainly think that there are reasons that Mike Norvell would make sense for Alabama. But I think that this is Dan Lanning until it's not. And that was what I was pretty told immediately after this happened by a couple of people that I feel like are somewhat in the know of these things. I won't say that it was somebody close to Dan Lanning or somebody close to Alabama, but people who kind of run in some of these coaching circles. That is what I was told immediately. I saw the Vegas odds start to come out. When I saw other things start to be posted, I think it makes a lot of sense. It might make a lot of sense why Dan Lanning shut down the Texas A&M stuff. Did he know that this was coming? I've got different people that have come to me and shown me some things that have happened since the Saban announcement, and it leads me to believe that this did not catch anyone at Alabama off guard. I also don't necessarily think that Alabama is really doing a search at this moment. I kind of think that Alabama knows the direction they're going and where this will end up. Now, that's speculation on my part. They certainly may not have spoken with anyone just yet, but I tend to believe that if Nick Saban was planning to do this, he gave Alabama a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a warning that this is coming. I don't think that this just absolutely took them by surprise. I don't think that Nick Saban just dropped this on their door an hour or two before it happened, and then the news was all over Twitter. I think they probably knew, and they've probably been already working on a replacement. I think that's Dan Lanning as of today. I think that's what's most likely. We'll see what ends up happening there. All right, I want to talk about some of the ripple effects, how this could still impact Florida State, thoughts on this going forward. What if it is Norvell? What about things like that? But first, I want to give some love to my buddy over at Knapp Injury Law. Alex Knapp, he's a diehard Seminole fan. He owns Knapp Accident and Injury. It's a law firm that specializes in car accidents, Uber and Lyft accidents, personal injury, and more. Listen, we've been telling you guys about him for months now. You probably don't need him right now. Hopefully, you never need his services. But if you're in the state of Florida and you are hurt or injured in any kind of a car accident, especially an Uber and Lyft accident, or some kind of commercial vehicle has injured you, or you've gotten in a car accident with them, make sure to give my buddy Alex a call. It's 813-568-3724. You can also go to knappinjurylaw.com, and he'll get you taken care of. Tell him that TJ sent you. Make sure that you're chatting with a really good Nole fan, a Florida State grad, an alum. Lock his number in your phone. Make sure that if you're ever hurt or injured, you are reaching out to Knapp Injury Law. Let him know that Double Fries No Slaw sent you. Mike Norvell's building something pretty incredibly special in Tallahassee right now, and I'm not super concerned with him going to Alabama in this moment. I believe everything he says about the climb and what he's building and the culture and the family that he's all building all this toward is 100% genuine. And I don't really have a lot of concerns about him looking for new roles or looking for new jobs. You remember when Jimbo was here, he was frustrated with a lot of things, and it seemed like every other year he'd be courting LSU, and we'd have to give him a raise to keep him here, but it just never seemed like he was satisfied. I think Norvell is, and that's my personal opinion. That's me talking with a couple of people who know him much better than I do, talking with people who interact with him almost on a daily basis. I think that Norvell is pretty satisfied and pretty content. I don't mean satisfied in like a complacent way, but I think he's pretty happy being in Tallahassee. I think he likes the life that he's built. I think he likes the program that he's in the middle of building as well. I think he's pretty entrenched here. I think you also look at the fact that Florida State is very likely out of the ACC. It's going to enable Norvell to do much more and even bigger things very soon. I think he really, really embraces Tallahassee. He embraces the culture. He is part of the culture. I think he's really cut from that Bowden cloth. And I know people, every time I say that, they're like, oh, you can't compare him to Bowden. And I don't necessarily mean the success way. I think the faith, family, and then football, that's what I believe Norvell embodies, just like Bobby did. And so when I say that, I know Bobby won a lot more games than Mike has to this point. I'd love to be able to compare Mike to Bobby at some point. But that's not what I'm doing from that perspective. I think that Mike very much embodies what Bobby is and was as a person. And hopefully the football results will follow after. All of that said, I think there might be one or two coaches, maybe three tops, who, if they were offered the Alabama job, would turn it down in this country. I think it is very, very few. I think Kirby Smart's probably one of those guys. I think Jim Harbaugh might be one of those guys. Rumors about him going back to the NFL is probably one of the biggest reasons I think that. I think that most coaches, if they were offered this job in the entire country, would say yes to it. There may be some that say no, but my gut would say that about 130 out of the 132 coaches in Division I college football would take this job tomorrow. And if that's the case, then I think that if Mike Norvell is the candidate that Alabama gets to and they make him an offer, I think Florida State will certainly do their best to keep him, but it wouldn't surprise me if he took the job at all. Now, I can say that at the same time that I'm just not worried about it. That doesn't seem to be the direction that I believe Alabama is going to go. Based on talking with a couple of people, I don't believe that he is as high up of a candidate as maybe the Vegas odds say that he is. I think he's probably running like 5th, 6th, 7th on their list. I don't think that 3, 4, 5, 6 people turn the Alabama job down when Alabama reaches out. I think that if Alabama reaches out to Dan Lanning, I think he takes it. If for some reason he doesn't, I think Dabo Swinney takes it. If for some reason he doesn't, I think Steve Sarkisian takes it. I think Lane Kiffin takes the job. Now, I don't necessarily know that those would be your top 4 in order, but I think all of those guys would end up taking the job, and I don't think it would ever get to Mike. Now, if all those other guys turn the job down, maybe Mike does as well, but I'm just telling you, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody took the Alabama job if they were offered it. I would understand just about anybody in the country doing that. One person who didn't do that, though, was Bobby, and we just talked a lot about how Mike is kind of cut from that cloth, and Bobby was offered that Alabama job. If you don't know the story, I won't waste your time here with it now. Just Google it or watch a Bobby documentary, and he talks about it in just about every one. But they offered him the job, and he went up, and he interviewed, and he looked at it, and he just said, no, it's not for me. I'll stay in Tallahassee. I don't know that Mike is all the way there yet. I don't know that Mike would completely turn it down like Bobby did, but it wouldn't necessarily shock me. I'll say that. We'll see what ends up happening with this. I do think there's a ripple effect that's going to take place. Obviously, from the day that the coach left, the Alabama Crimson Tide players have 30 days to potentially enter the transfer portal. I think that Florida State should be very, very aggressive with, honestly, tampering, because that's what all of college football is doing right now with Alabama's players. They are going to make a downgrade at head coach. There's no way they couldn't, because they're replacing the GOAT. And so, though it may not be a bad hire, it's not going to be Saban. And you've already seen some Alabama kids decommit. You've already seen some kids reopen their recruitments. I would not be surprised if several jump into the portal because of this. You sign up to play for Coach Saban. Now, some will stay for sure. But I think you're going to recruit that pretty hard. Say Lanning takes the job. Say Dabo takes the job. You're obviously going to have then openings at Clemson. You're going to have openings there at Oregon, wherever the replacement for Saban, kids from that roster, can then enter the portal for 30 days. Say Dabo takes the job and someone else goes and fills Dabo's role in Clemson, and you're going to have that coach's job and kids, the opening there, open for 30 days. This happening post-national championship is nuts. Post right after the portal closed is nuts. And it is going to be a ton of fun to watch. Hopefully, Florida State only involved on the buying side, only involved looking for portal prospects who may want to come up and along. But, of course, we'll continue to monitor, and we'll watch this, and we'll see how things go. Florida State also targeting more Alabama players. Have already gotten a couple to jump on board, but targeting more Alabama players in the portal as well. We'll see how that goes. See if anyone's mind is impacted there. A couple of battles going on for portal guys that Alabama has been involved with. You've got a 5-star wide receiver in the 2025 class who committed to Alabama, actually plays high school football with your current quarterback commit in the 2025 class. Does he open his recruitment? Are there some recruitments that you might get back into now because of this? Are there some recruitments that you lost out on at the end of the 2024 cycle? Those kids now can jump in the portal if they wish. A lot to look at, a lot to kind of break down with this, and truly just shocking news. I'm happy for Nick Saban. Happy for the rest of college football more than I probably am for Nick Saban. Happy that he got to go out his way. He did a good job coaching this year. We talked about QB problems, and Milroe was essentially a running back there, throwing the ball around. So happy that he got to go out his way, did a good job coaching this year, and, honestly, the GOAT, and somebody that we'll enjoy watching on ESPN on some of the broadcasts forever. So really, really happy for him. He did a lot for the sport, caused a lot of people a lot of heartache and headache, and ruined our 2017 season, but we finished 1-1 against him, right? Got the win with Bobby there at the helm in Jacksonville. So, hey, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Coach Saban, funny stories, things you remember. Are you concerned about Mike? Again, I'm really not. I'm not trying to worry anybody else. Had a bunch of people ask, and so figured we'd make this video and chat about it a little bit. So, hey, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for watching. Got a lot more going on. The portal is not slowing down anytime soon. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.